Hello, and welcome to the webinar. It's 3 minutes till, so I'm going to riff for a few minutes. If I could play music, I would, but YouTube doesn't allow me to. This is, what do I mean by that? This will be posted on YouTube, so you can watch it later. But every time I try to play music, it doesn't work. Like YouTube's like, hey, you can't play that music. That's somebody else's. So I won't be. Instead, I'll just be humming to you. I'll be singing songs for the next 3 minutes. I'm kidding. Welcome. If you're here early, thanks for being early. If you're watching recorded and you want to skip all this intro stuff, just skip to about 3 minutes from now when you'll see the screen move. I'll pop up in the bottom corner here. Hi, there I am. And let's see who's here. Introduce yourself in the chat box. What's your name? Where are you from? And what are you grateful for? I'm curious. How you didn't think you were going to get through a Thanksgiving week webinar without me talking about gratitude, did you? So feel free to type in the chat box, and that'll also tell you where the chat box is, so that when we're doing the Q&A, you'll be all kinds of familiar with it. I kind of like the lighting that's going on here. It's kind of working. John, hi. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. What time is it in the Philippines? I'm curious. Who else is here? Lee, hi. Destin. I don't even know where Destin is. Thanks, John. You're sweet. Hi, Tyler from Granada Hills. Repping the Northridge. It's 9 a.m. Oh, well, this worked out beautifully. I'll just keep doing webinars at this time from my folks in the Philippines. Hi, Tyler. I think I did see you last week. So just curious from folks, what are you grateful for? And like I said, I kind of tend to start webinars with that because I think it's just a beautiful place to start from. But I'd be curious to hear from folks. Hi, Jorge and Neha. Great to have you. Thanks for tuning in. Cool. Martha, you saw me at IECA. This is going to be super similar to what if you saw me present at IECA, just FYI. You'll see that as we get into it here in a few minutes. But what am I grateful for? I am grateful for really amazing Lebanese food. I'm sitting here. There's a little falafel platter here, and it was incredible. That's what I had for lunch. So I'm grateful also that I can choose in this day and age what I get to eat, like high quality food, and I can have it delivered to my doorstep. So I'm pretty excited about that. Ayush says 6:30 a.m. here. Better be worth it. I hope it is. Cool. Shanine says the Matchlighters crew has helped so much. I'm really glad. Hi, Beth from Evanston. Welcome. Jill, I too am grateful for things that make me laugh. Let me take a sip of water and let's get started. So hi, y'all. I'm Ethan. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. This is my cool Prezi. Here are some places where I've spent some time doing some things. I went to Northwestern, studied performance studies, got a master's in acting, and got a couple counseling certificates along the way. I've spent about 13 years doing this. Some folks don't know that this is actually, if you see me like leaning this way, it's because my microphone is right here. I'll try not to do that. There. But I've spent about 13 years doing this. This was my job out of college, and I love it, as you'll soon see. I collect certifications, as you'll learn about me. Myers-Briggs, hypnotherapy. What else am I certified in? I'm certified crazy? No, I'm certified. I think that's it, actually. I might have some others I don't even know about that have expired. And if you never heard of me, I do voices. I'm known more for my free stuff on my webpage, which is at /free. And my Matchlighter scholarship, which one of the students who's tuned in is a part of this basically offers 4 hours of free essay help to students who need it. Students who are low income, who apply for it, you can apply through the website. Or if you're a counselor and you'd like to volunteer for this program, to sign up, you can go to collegeessayguide.com/matchlighters. It's pretty cool. And I wrote a book, and it's the #1 book on college essays, and I'm really proud of that. I have a podcast that's got tons of advice. So whether you're here, as a senior working on essays, or whether you've got some time, whether you're a sophomore or junior tuning in, I've got tons of advice. I've got 6 new podcasts coming out in the next 2 weeks, which I'm excited about. And I'll be taking requests for new ideas for podcasts. And I've got an amazing daughter, and this is her next to my cool bike, my cool retro bike that I just got. On this session, here's what we're going to cover. And I'm going to go blazing fast, as is my style. I'm going to talk to you about why including numbers in your activities list is super important. Activities that you may not have thought about, but that count. When that additional info section, that's that 650 word box in your Common App. If you're applying via the Common App, and many of you probably are, what to put in there and what you shouldn't put in there, and why it can actually make the difference. I'm going to show you a really good essay, a YS essay, and the YS essay is the one that you have to write for most schools, which is like, why do you love us so much? And then I'm going to show you an amazing one. We'll do a little mini Q&A right in the middle, and then I'll do a little 3-minute PSA telling you about this cool course that I've created for you. And then I'm going to talk to you about the short answers. I'll spend maybe like 8 or 10 minutes on those. And then we're just going to open it up for Q&A. So the whole thing will take about an hour. If you stay tuned to the end, I'll let you know how you can get the recording of this presentation, how to get links to the resources that I'm sharing, and a very special Black Friday offer. This is an idea that my brother had earlier today. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And it's going to give you an opportunity to give back this Thanksgiving. What could be better? All right, let's get into it. So this is kind of the mapping process. This is how I see the whole college application deal working. So we begin with you, and you are a mixture of all these moments and details and memories and images. And how do you pack all of that awesomeness into these individual, I like to think of them as gray boxes that the colleges are asking for. So imagine that this is your Common App. You're being asked for all these things, right? Of course, I put the main personal statement here in the middle because I'm the college essay guy, but because it's the biggest piece of writing that you'll do. And then how do you handle the activities list, the additional information section? Do you do a video or not? Supplemental essay, number 1, we'll talk about that. Supplemental essay, if you've got another one for the college. Now you've got all these other pieces, of course, that matter, but most of what I'm talking about today is going to be dealing with this stuff up top. Dun, dun, dun. That was like kind of dramatic. I think it's important to do a preliminary sort, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, what I mean by that a little bit later. Then there's the how-to, all the individual pieces. And this is a little preview of the course that I'll tell you about later. Then it's important to make sure your application is actually doing its job. I've got a little step-by-step process for doing that. And so you end up with this brilliant, beautiful final application that just fits into these awesome, colorful little boxes. Isn't that nice? Totally possible. And you can do it in like a week. Really. It might take a little more work than that, but I think that you can get the basic pieces and get a lot done in about a week. Okay, so let's start here. The activities and awards list. I don't need to read all this to you. Let me just show it to you. If it seems like I'm going fast, don't worry. You can go back and watch it later. Just sit back, relax, and let the information absorb. So tips for the activities and awards list. So what are some tips? First of all, use active verbs to explain what you actually did. Verbs, 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 y'all. Rather than saying you worked at a clinic doing different things, those don't really inspire me. Try instead, I organized patient diagnosis notes, or I sterilized tools for surgeries, or I assisted with x-ray analysis. Notice how we're getting like some really nice, I don't want to say meaty verbs, but like really active ones that really show you at work, where we can like picture you like sterilizing tools. I can see you like opening the machine and like putting those tools in, right? So verbs, verbs, verbs. That's the first thing I want to say about your activities list. Make sure that your verbs aren't redundant. So instead of saying like, I instructed, helped, and taught children tennis, like, how are these different, right? So variety is important here. Instructed tennis students in proper technique while imparting lessons in sportsmanship, health, and integrity. Okay. I see how those are different. Instructing students in proper technique is one thing. That's one image in my head. Whereas teaching them lessons in sportsmanship, health, and integrity is something different. Third, emphasize and quantify tangible, measurable impact. This is the thing that I said at the start. Why use numbers? Because it's important to show, for example, whom your activity helped, how many people it helped, and how much, for example, money that you raised. So rather than saying, for example, raised money for children in Africa, you could say raised $3,000 to provide 18 uniforms and 6 scholarships for students at this particular school in this particular place. Okay? Numbers, y'all. So verbs and numbers, these are your takeaways so far. 4, if you were just like a member or participant and you're feeling like a little self-conscious about it, don't worry about that. You don't have to say it. Just cut the word member, cut the word participant. Now, this is for those students who create their activities list and feel like, oh, I'm not really showing a lot of leadership. You don't need to keep drawing attention to the fact that you just showed up for some of these things. So you can just cut that word. Tiny tip. And Fifth tip, don't try to do everything. And you get this little, for the Common App, you've got 150 characters, which is like an old tweet, right? And so don't feel like you've got to squish everything into these 150 characters. For example, this student that I've got on the screen, he said he researched, brainstormed, and created 3 prototypes of a water cleaning boat. He was recognized statewide. You can say see additional info for more. So you can fit that somewhere else, and I'll explain where and how to do that in just a minute. Note that I said selective use. So don't go crazy here. Don't feel like you've got to pack everything and just fill in that additional info with just like random stuff. That's not what I'm saying here. I'll say more about that in just a minute. The difference between an amazing activities and awards list and one that's just really good, compare these. So a really good list might have something like peer tutor for AP Bio teacher, selected by AP Bio teacher, and that's a great thing to put in if you were selected for something, by the way, to assist peers with difficult biology concepts, provided feedback with student-free response questions. Some nice verbs there. Selected, provided, I like it. Member of the JV swim team. Participate in practices and meets. Assist in recruiting new members. Help raise funds for travel. Swim anchor on 4x100. Sweet. Mentor for Girl Scouts troop. I mentored 10 young girls. Notice the number. Spearhead troop exhibit representing, I love that word, spearheaded. That's a nice verb. This particular exhibit representing Italy at the Cultural Community Fair, and brainstormed troop activities. Nice. Some awards from a really good list. AP Scholar Award. This one's pretty common. And I got superior at this particular festival. Received 4 marks from the judges based on style and interpretation, note accuracy, and creativity. Now, the reason I like this one in particular is that the words like creativity and style are kind of being worked in. And those words are being, in the terms of neurolinguistic programming, kind of anchored. And you're saying, I received superior on style and creativity, hence I am stylish and creative. So you can kind of plant little ideas here in the reader's mind in pretty obvious ways. Okay, but here are 3 activities and 2 awards from an amazing list. Inventor of the Drone X2. Patent number this was granted to me, the inventor and applicant, name, after a year designing and testing prototypes. See additional info, because there was clearly more to say about that. Professional wildlife photographer. Worked with an international award-winning filmmaker, designed and sold calendar to raise funds for nearby school, developed prototype for improved lens. What? And lead programmer on AlphaBots, designed and programmed an original video game to be published this fall, quickly learned new programming language. Also demoed the game at Comic-Con, by the way. Soloed at Carnegie Hall as winner of the American Protege International Music Competition, and top 10 nationally and 2-time New York champion in policy debate. What? Are you reading this and getting a little intimidated? I don't know that that's a bad thing if you are. I want you to keep in mind that a very good activities and awards list includes very good achievements told in a well-crafted way. And if you've got some very good activities and awards, it's possible to have a very good list. But in order to have an amazing list, because students sometimes ask me that, how do you have an amazing list? Well, you've got to have some amazing clay, some extraordinary achievements that you're molding with. Otherwise, it might cap out at really good. Okay? But don't freak out. Here's some good news. First of all, actually, let me say something about this. So there's a counselor at Carnegie Mellon that I didn't meet, but a counselor friend of mine just spoke to a couple weeks ago. And the counselor said, or the admissions counselor said, we can't, as counselors, we can't make a student taller, but we can help them stand up straighter. Makes you want to stand up straighter just thinking that. Think about that a second. We can't be taller, but we can stand up straighter. My goal with this and the course that I'll tell you about is to help you stand up straighter on your application. Okay? Here's a list of activities that you may not have considered including, but that count. So if you're feeling like your activities list is a little thin, take a look at this list. This was put together by my awesome colleagues in my college essay forum for counselors. And if you're a counselor listening to this, go on Facebook right now and search College Essay Forum for Counselors and click join. And we'd love to have you be a part of that conversation. Sorry, students, you can't be. It's all top secret college essay geeking out. There's no can you look at my essay? Sorry. So take a look at this list. Here's amazing stuff that many students have put on their applications. Well, not many, but some students have put on their applications. Things like taking courses in Duolingo, fashion blogging, beekeeping. Students may not be thinking outside the box about how have you spent your time? Could it be something that you put on your activities list? Maybe. Some other stuff, and I won't read all these, but selling stuff on eBay. Mountain biking, bird watching, fantasy football statistician, manager, recruiter, webmaster. right? Like all of these things, and the key to like making them sound legit is by using awesome, amazing verbs that will allow us to see, oh, okay, there were some interesting skills or values that you developed through doing whatever the thing was. Those are, I know I'm going over these fast. Don't worry. I'm going to send you a resource. I'll tell you about it at the end of the session where you can actually see that whole list. You might be wondering, what if my activity is so huge? There's just no way that I can express its brilliance and awesomeness in 150 characters. I say do a little short description in the activities list, like I showed you on the example before that, and then put the additional information in, wait for it, the additional information section. How do you do this? Behold, the additional info section. So here's some things that you might, keyword might, include in the additional info section, because it's really important that you don't feel like pressure to put something in here. I was working with a student earlier today and there was a little comment and she said, what should I put in the additional info? And I was like, well, you don't have to put anything, but students are oftentimes baffled by what to put there. So here are some ideas. If, as I've mentioned already, there are important details about activities that were great for you, but they wouldn't fit, and this isn't for everyone, but if it's bursting at the seams, here's how you might do it. So that prototype guy I mentioned, check it out. Wave machine. Additional information. Prototype that creates transverse waves of high magnitude in the water. So that's what it does. The first use, it can be used in generation of electricity. Second use is the deflection of waves, can be used in the detection of tsunamis. Cool. And it won the second runner-up award. Now he had his award section filled, so we decided to put that award here. This is what the section's for. Water Wave, this is a water cleaning boat, and I'll just kind of fast forward through it. He was collaborating with a software company, and he's creating an app, and the app is going to be released on the App Store and Google Play. Now, I think it's great to put this in the application because without this, I think I'd know just a little bit less about him. And so I think it's great to go, okay, is there some more stuff about me that isn't ending up in the application? If so, this is where it should go. That rhymed. Note that it's super factual. It's just like boom, 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 and truly additional information. Consider that, let me just say this, consider that you're working kind of on borrowed time. Like they've read through your whole application. They've looked at your essays, they looked at your transcript, they've read your recommendation letters, and they're going, okay, what else? Anything else? Before we make the decision, anything else? So that's what this is for. Health stuff. Simple example. Note on dropping volleyball. Student literally wrote this. I decided not to continue volleyball senior year due to chronic back problems. Because the reader might wonder, why did the student only do volleyball, for freshman, sophomore, junior year? Why did it go away? Here's the answer. Maybe that answer wasn't in the personal statement or wasn't in one of the supplements. Super simple, straightforward. An IB extended essay. So if you're in the International Baccalaureate program, I think it's really cool to put a simple 750. No, please do not put a 750 word version. 75 to 100 word version of your abstract. Make sure that we understand what you're saying. So if it's super technical, that could have a distancing effect. Make sure we get it. So this example here, which I won't read to you, but it's a very simple, straightforward, I wrote a 4,000 word thesis and calculated the negative externalities of land reclamation, the act of creating new land in the ocean in Bahrain on native fishermen. Now, that sounded kind of like jargony, and you're like, Ethan, you're joking, right? Like that's not actually simple. But notice that he explains what land reclamation is in this first sentence. So that's a quick example of that. And again, don't worry, you don't have to memorize this. You can take a screenshot if you want, but you'll get this recording. Why include this? Because there aren't a ton of students who do like legit research in this way. And so it's a nice way of saying, hey, that was pretty cool. And here's what I spent my time doing. It also, as a counselor that I really love likes to say, it also gives a window into your academic soul. Put that in your pipe. Don't actually smoke. Smoking is bad. Potential red flags. So why put potential red flags? What do I mean by a red flag? It's something that the reader might look at on your application and go, oh, that's not so good. So what do I mean by this? Well, here are 5 items that a student that I worked with last year put in his additional info section. He couldn't finish the wrestling season. So in 11th grade, he dropped wrestling. Why? Mom and older brother were in a car accident. Responsibilities at home stacked up. And I was also working at the time to pay bills. So I was unable to stay for practice. Simple, straightforward, telling the story, telling it like it is. Another thing that he put, summer courses, 11th and 12th grade. Tried to take college courses during the summer, but I couldn't afford the classes. And there was an issue regarding my residency. Now, this is a student who was undocumented, and he revealed that in his main statement. If you're interested in should you reveal if you're undocumented in your main statement or not, Google, should I come out as undocumented in my college essay guy, or just look on my blog. And I've got a whole post on that and an hour-long podcast. And if you're a counselor wanting to know more about that, I've got an interview on my podcast with how to advocate for undocumented students. Side note. But notice how simple. The third note that he wrote down, Calc BC explanation. After taking Calculus AB in my junior year, I wanted to take Calc BC my senior year. Unfortunately, my teacher felt he wouldn't be able to teach the class since he lacked the knowledge and training to teach it. Instead, I took up a second science, AP Physics 2, during my senior year. I'm one of the first students to take this course in my school. If I'm a college admissions reader, I want to know that. I want to know why he didn't take it. And I want to know, this is a very plainly stated thing, and it was true. And he's like, how do I phrase it? I was like, just tell it like it is. And then what did you do about it? Well, I took up another science, and I'm one of the first to do it. Highest SAT score in my class. So this student scored a 1910 on the old SAT, which you go, well, it's not, Stanford level, but it's a good score. But it's the highest in his class, and I wanted him to let the reader know that. So he did. He put that in his additional info. And AP Physics. He was the first student at his school to ever pass the AP Physics 1 exam. He scored a 3. That's important context, y'all. If there's something like that would help the reader understand your scores, in the context of your whole high school. And I wanted him to put that he scored a 3 next to it so that the reader didn't have to, when the reader saw his AP scores go, oh, that's not very good. Remember that this is actually really good for his context, for the context of his school. Why are these important? Well, he had a 3.6 GPA, which is good, 1910 on the SAT, and his dream school was Stanford. And I was like, I'm a dreamer myself, not dreamer as in terms of an undocumented student, but I like to dream big. But even for him, I was kind of like, it's not going to happen. But guess what? He actually got in, and he's going there. He just actually is starting. He's just started this fall. And I absolutely was amazed. And when I was going through the files of trying to figure out how did this happen? What did he do? And he was too. It's what was different on this application? I like to think, and he had great essays and great leadership and great extracurriculars. And he had an upward trend in his grades. Part of the reason his GPA was what it was because he went through extraordinary hardships. But he got in, and I like to think that some of that contextual information, some of the stuff that I just shared with you really, really helped the reader understand who he was and what he was about. Additional awards. If you just want a ton of awards in something, you can just literally say additional awards and then just list them in your application. If you want 8 more important uses for the additional info section, I'm not going to bore you with them all now, but I'll send you a link in the PDF handout that I share with you. Okay, what should you not put there? A second personal statement. This is not the place for you to be like, well, this is my option B on my personal statement. I just think when I've talked to most admissions readers, I just think that they go, that's not, you got a chance, do it in your main statement. And this is really for information. Don't put something like, I received a B+ in chemistry, because that might show that you're just a little too obsessed with academics. If you've got all the otherwise A's, you don't need to explain that B+. If you don't have a great reason why something happened, don't put an excuse there. If you didn't do well in math because you slacked off or, didn't like your teacher, maybe not so much worth mentioning. And there's a rep from Tufts who says that telling me that you cured ICD-9 PhD in chem. So don't get super complex if you're going to include an abstract or, like I mentioned, a little bit from your IB extended essay. If you're going to talk about it, simplify it. What I like to say to students is this, and counselors, this is a great phrase. Give me some English in your science abstract. So don't go all science or all math. Give me some English so I know what you're saying. Okay? Break it down for me. I like to say, write it from my grandmother. You don't know my grandmother, but I want you to write it in such a way that she would kind of get what you're saying. Okay. And then pasting a resume that repeats everything you've already said. Don't do that. It's redundant, right? It also, they're super busy, so it doesn't really respect their time, and it's kind of insecure. It's like, hey, remember all that stuff that I told you about? And also, it's redundant. That's a pretty subtle joke, really subtle. Okay. So what's next? The Why Us, my favorite geeky essay. So I've got this complete guide to the Why Us essay, and here are some gems from that complete guide. By gems, I mean the 5 things that you need to know. So do's and don'ts. First of all, don't write about the school's size, location, reputation, or the weather. Why? Because that's what everybody's writing about. Emory, in fact, used to have a YS essay that said, many students decide to apply to Emory based on our size, location, reputation, and yes, the weather. Besides these valid reasons as a possible college choice, why is Emory a particularly good match for you? Why are they saying this? It's pretty obvious, y'all. Everybody's writing about this. They're tired of reading about that. So why are they doing this? Why are they sending you a YS in the first place? Again, something to Google. It's called demonstrated interest. And if you haven't learned what demonstrated interest is, you can just Google demonstrated interest, college essay guy, or just, I think, Google demonstrated interest. And I've got a whole podcast on that. But if you're short on time and you can't listen to the whole 45 minutes of the podcast, just click on the guide and it'll give you a brief guide to what demonstrated interest is. And that'll help you understand why these YS essays are so important. In fact, some schools say they're more important even than your main essay. Okay. That's explained more at length in that demonstrated interest post. But essentially, the colleges want to know that you and them are a match. How do you do that? I'm really hardcore with these. I tell students, if there's anything that you've written in your essay that sounds like another student could have written it, cross it out and write something original, something that sounds particularly like you and particularly like the school. I know that sounds hardcore, but if you're mid-YS essay, you can look at it right now. Don't do it right this second, but like do it after you watch this and go like, okay, could any of this be about another school? Could another student have said this? Cross it out, get more specific. Don't think of this as a why them essay. So it's not all about why the school is so awesome and they got such great flowers, or as Erica Sanders from Michigan says, don't tell me we have a great bus system. I know we've got a great bus system. I take it every day. Right. So this is not all about just sort of like bowing down at the feet of this school, or like the worst you can do is like use their website language. Right. Because who wrote that? Who do you think wrote that or like approved that? The people that you're writing to. So if it wasn't obvious. And so I say instead, think of this as like a why we're perfect for each other essay. So imagine yourself sitting across from the reader and you're on like a third date. And they're like, so actually, no, forget the reader. You imagine you're on a date with somebody. It's like your third date. And they ask you, why are we right for each other? You can't just say because you're hot, right? Or I don't know, because you're super smart, or because you have a great student to faculty ratio, right? Because that may be obvious, first of all, or it may be what everybody else has said. You've got to find specifics. So how do you do this? I say, fold a piece of paper in half. On this side, put what I want and put what they have. Okay. What I want is probably going to be connected to some stuff you've done. In other words, you might want a modern dance. Maybe you want to get involved in like creating student theater. Then Northwestern, for example, my alma mater, might be a good match for you because they've got a ton of student theater groups. Maybe you, in fact, one day you want to become an artistic director. Well, at Northwestern, you can find 10 to 12 student theater groups where you can be the artistic director. You can also be an assistant director if that's your jam. But you're going to want to make a big list. And I think like 10 to 15 reasons. Okay. Does that sound like a lot? Yeah, it is. But that's going to give you the material that you need. Okay. Here's my really fancy YS essay research chart. Okay. What I want and what they've got. How does this help you? It takes your essay from this, Michigan's well-known legacy, its fantastic football team, and spectacular location in Ann Arbor are just a few reasons why I believe UM is the place for me. Super generic, right? I mean, who else is going to be writing about the legacy football team? Maybe not so much this year. And its location, blah, 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 right? Instead, I look forward to this particular class and this particular class, as I believe these courses will provide me with this specific thing, a firm basis in journalistic writing technique, and improve my abilities to write analytically and develop well-supported arguments. Nice, that's better, more specific, right? Furthermore, this course will teach me how to write in a concise, straightforward style, a skill vital to a journalist. Notice how beautifully that sentence, speaks in a concise, straightforward style. 5, the difference between a school you're excited about, this is my last tip on YS, and one that you're, just kind of excited about may just be research. What do I mean by this? Well, let's say you're kind of like not super excited about a school. It's kind of like, you might even think about it as like shoes that are too tight. And I kind of like this image for it. Well, walking around in those shoes, they might start to fit a little better. I think of this as a metaphor for getting to know a school. So you hear this, if you've worked with a counselor, you hear it's all about finding your fit. Well, I think fit begins with touring the school or doing some research, because probably you're researching before you're even touring, maybe. But I think it begins, figuring out if a school is going to fit for you, actually begins with research. It's kind of like walking around in the new shoes. Give you a quick example. I'll give you two examples. Here's a short essay by a student who wasn't super excited, but then he did a bunch of research and he found some reasons to love the school. And this is one style. I call this the fire hose version of the YS essay. In addition to providing a strong foundation in economics, Tufts provides me the opportunity to further explore global healthcare policy through an international relations program that leverages the strengths of 18 related departments and programs. I'm also keen to continue my study of the Chinese language through Tufts Chinese department, studying with this particular professor, and maybe studying abroad at this particular place to receive the full immersion experience. Tufts Experimental College intrigues me as I can take unconventional courses like this and that, and notice these are specifics. Further, Tufts Urban Backdrop, now you don't want to talk about location, but in this case, the urban backdrop provides me the opportunity to play league cricket year-round to train for my bid to become the first jumbo on the U.S. national cricket team. Now, this is an international cricket star who had a legit shot of doing this, so it's not just him, saying, "Oh, I'd love to," dreaming about it. While studying abroad at Oxford, notice how specific. Don't just say studying abroad. Generally, every school pretty much is going to have a study abroad program. Where studying abroad at Oxford? Why? Provide me the opportunity to provide me with not only global economic perspectives, see above, but also the opportunity to continue my pursuit of cricket in its birthplace. Connecting to the thing you just talked about. Visiting Tufts, my mother's alma mater, by the way, he's like squeaks that in. I felt I was at home in Singapore. Its strengths in Chinese, econ, and international relations, combined with its beautiful suburban campus, academic rigor, and global reach, I know, that's kind of what I told you not to do, have confirmed that Tufts is the place for me. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And it kind of wraps it up nicely. Now, why do I like this one? I think this is a really good essay because it brings in 14 reasons in less than 200 words, fewer than 200 words, which is pretty good. But that's not the only way to write one of these. Let me give you another example. Here's a YS essay that focuses on a specific reason, and I think couldn't be mistaken for another school because the prompt is so specific. So Bowdoin asks, students and alumni often cite world-class faculty and opportunities for intellectual engagement, the college's commitment to the common good, and the special quality of life on the coast of Maine as important aspects of the Bowdoin experience. Reflecting on your own interests and experiences, please comment on one of the following. 1, intellectual engagement. 2, the common good. Or 3, connection to place. Check out this essay. On the first dawn of the summer, I found myself in a familiar place, sitting awkwardly in the back of a crowded bus full of rowdy 12-year-olds. Now, already that sounds different from the YS essay that we've already read, and maybe others that you've read. Stay with it. But this time around, I wasn't the shy new kid at school, a position I knew all too well. I was the teacher, implementing a middle school aquatic ecology curriculum I developed the year before. As New Jersey's Passaic River appeared on the horizon, I tightened the red laces on my Merrill hiking boots and checked my bag. Clipboards, lesson plans, and a new water testing kit. For the entire day, I watched as 25 young minds tested the Passaic River's water. Using the river as a natural learning laboratory, I taught them about pollution and industrialization, urban design, and remediation strategies. That summer, through my work in environmental education, I discovered the power of place. I realized that in a changing world, places really are the best storytellers. I get a little choked up reading that, y'all. By tracking the Passaic's pollution levels, we toured the tales of its waters, beginning with its use by the Lenape Native Americans, to its unjust usurpation by European hegemons, to the Vietnam War, during which tons of Agent Orange were dumped recklessly. At Bowdoin, I'll encounter this again. First mention of the schools in the last paragraph. At Bowdoin, I'll settle down. I'll encounter this again. I find myself doing the very thing I was teaching, investigating the rich stories behind the place. As part of my major in Earth and Oceanographic Science, ding, 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 I blissfully get lost on Orr's Island, researching everything from the historical ecology to the changing geography of the Maine coastline. And I can't wait. And I believe you. And guess what? He didn't go to Bowdoin. Sorry. It's so funny because you set it up and it's like, yeah, total fit for this school. It's beautiful. He gets it. And he ended up at Yale. But he's doing well. He's happy. But look at the difference between these two statements, right? The first one is like, ba-bam, 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 ba-bam. Here are my 14 reasons. This one is like, yo, I got one reason, and it's really good. So is this risky? Yeah. Could your reader be skimming and not even read the last paragraph? Yeah. I sound like Olaf from Frozen. Yeah. Do I sound like Olaf from Frozen? Yeah. So I feel like this is definitely risky. But the way this pays off in my mind, like I read this, I'm an admissions reader. I'm like, right this way, sir or madam. It's just a beautiful, I think, calculated risk. Is it a risk? I don't even know, because to take your heart and put it on the page, to me doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like he's just doing it in a new and unusual way. So in short, there's a lot of potential in these YS essays, everything from the fire hose, list them all, to like pick one reason and give us your heart on the page. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about YS essays for now. Here's your complex YS essay research chart. That's the place to begin. If you don't have a ton of specific reasons, go back and do that. Okay, mini Q&A, because I need to switch over my Prezi. What questions do you have right this second? You can type them in the chat box right now while I switch over my Prezi. Excuse me one second. This is where I'll hum. Okay, here goes. Prezi number 2 coming up shortly. Any questions? I think there's like a tiny delay, so I don't know if I'm gonna actually get your questions, but you know when I will get them? In the Q&A at the end. Because guess what, y'all? I'm already ready with my second Prezi. Let's see. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Let's see. It's this one. Here we go. Turn screen share. Oh, hi. There I am in full screen mode. Bye. Okay. So I want to do a quick mini PSA for this course that I'm doing, and it's actually going to answer some of your questions. So because this is like the extremely abridged guide to the supplemental essays, there's good news. I've put together an entire course on how to get you into all these tiny boxes. Okay, so how do you get you into all the gray boxes? I mentioned this earlier. It's this course that I put together. Let me bend your ear for 2 minutes, and then we'll get to the short answers, and then we'll get to your Q&A. So first begins the preliminary sort that I mentioned. So on this course, you'll be able to you'll see a sample application. So that student that ended up getting into Stanford, that worked his butt off to write amazing essays and Q&A, it did a great additional info section. I'm going to show you how doing a great job on the brainstorming activities set him up for a great application, because that's where I think it really begins. I'm going to show you how to overlap your essay topics in a way that will help you save time, like hours and hours during the process. I'm going to do an overlapping game, which will explain that. Talk to you about what's called a super essay, which is an essay that works for multiple topics, and show you a step-by-step process for writing one. Oh, good news. There's a counselor version of this course. So there's a version I did, and I recorded it earlier during the summer for students, and I did one for counselors. Then we're going to be talking about some of what we talked about today, but some of the things that I left out that I just didn't have time to cover is how a 3-step process for up-leveling your activities and awards list. It's really good, y'all. And I've got an epic list of verbs that will help you basically when you're writing your activities list. Then I'm going to go over 3 more examples of the YS essay. On day 3, which is lesson 3, I'm going to talk about the extracurricular essay, and I'm going to show you the difference between a regular one that's just okay, and one that's super, one that could be used potentially for the UC personal insight questions, which are due really soon in a week. So the techniques that I talk about on this will work for the UC personal insight questions. I'm going to talk to you about 8 different mistakes that students make and how to solve those. The best extracurricular activity brainstorm I've ever seen. Then I'm going to talk to you how you can apply this to basically any supplemental essay. The great community essays, so for Michigan and Duke. And then there's a little Q&A at the end of each session. Day 4, I get into specific supplements. So I get into, for example, the Stanford essays. I get into the U Chicago essays, any essays that ask about a quotation, the create your own class essay. Then on day 5, I get into some of the short answers, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a few minutes. Actually, less than a few minutes, 2 minutes from now. 6 techniques for the 150-word extracurricular essay, which is pretty common now. It used to be required by the Common Up. Now it's just for certain schools. How to take creative risks on that. How to create a quick video, if that's something that you're interested in doing. I've got 18 tips for that. And then how to make sure your entire application is doing its job. I've got a step-by-step process for that. That's so secret I can't even tell you about it. Then I've got this complete guide to the YS essay that's going to be included with the course. The course guide has all of these tips, which I won't even read to you right now. It's also got 36 sample essays for all types of different things. I've got when is it? You can watch it whenever you want because I pre-recorded it, so you can binge watch it on demand this weekend. Where is it? You can watch it, listen to it in your car, in the shower, in the womb. Please do not watch it in the womb. This course is not for embryos. That's a really cheesy joke. Anyway, I'll skip that. But obviously, you can watch it everywhere and anywhere. And anytime. How much is the course? The suggested cost that I put on the site that's listed right now is $297 for students, and it's $597 for counselors, which is how much courses cost in the extension programs. But today, through Black Friday, I'm going to do $200 off. So the suggested cost of request is $97 for students and $397 for counselors. Plus, 100% of the purchases that are made through Friday are going to go to the Match Sliders Scholarship Program, which I mentioned at the top. So that is to say, all the funds from between today and Friday that go through are going to go to basically pay the salary of the program director, the person who helps pair students with counselors. So there's some like logistics that happen throughout the year, and so this is an opportunity. It's kind of a fundraiser for that program. So if you're interested in that, you want to support the program and learn a lot, you'll see a little link pop up in the margin here in just a second, and you can use the coupon code Black Friday. Or you can just go to tinyurl.com/amazing supplemental essays and type in Black Friday. So so ends the PSA. Thank you for your patience. Like I said, you can look in the little margin here and that little thing will pop up. Essays are good. Thank you. That's my Chick-fil-A reference. But do I like Chick-fil-A? I have mixed feelings about Chick-fil-A. I'm just letting my politics show there a little bit. Okay, third and final Prezi before we get to the Q&A. And then we'll look at one sample essay as I've promised. So let's see. Here we go. All right. Let me fast forward on this. Here we go. So short answers. Let's talk about them. See if I can nail this, where it is in the course. Here we go. All right. 11 short answers, do's and don'ts. Okay. So think of your short answers as an advent calendar. What's an advent calendar? You remember these? They're like, you open up each one, each day and something interesting or awesome happens. But sometimes something interesting doesn't happen. Like you open like door 4 and it's like a little horrible chocolate. And you're like, it doesn't even taste good. So my thing is make sure that each thing that you open, each short answer is actually revealing something cool and interesting and new about you. I encourage students to use all the space allotted. What do I mean by that? So let's say you ask for a 1-word answer, but it gives you space for 13 words. You might want to use that space. In other words, like answer why. Why? Because each one is an opportunity to get to know you. And if the answer is not clearly obvious from what you've said, there might be a missed opportunity there. So for example, if they ask, what's your favorite food? This is USC asks this, and you say tacos. It's like, okay, great. I like them too. It doesn't really tell me much. If instead you say, my abuela's birria tacos, the recipe's been passed down for generations, then I'm like, okay, all right, I'm learning a little something more. I'm getting some more context, some more information. And there's room there to do that for some of these. Another example of a just okay answer is, who's your role model? Louis Zamperini. How many of you know who Louis Zamperini is? If you're a student, maybe not so much. If you're a counselor, maybe you know. But why not say Louis Zamperini, an Olympic athlete who survived concentration camps and overcame severe alcoholism? Interesting. Okay, so that adds a little more context. Don't make the reader Google your answer because she ain't gonna. Third, don't make the short reason you provide or any of your answers super obvious. So what's your favorite website? Instagram. It's a social media photo sharing site. Yeah, I've heard of it, I think. Or don't, what historical moment or event you wish you'd have witnessed. For some reason, students love to say the Big Bang for this one. It was the beginning of our universe, and it would have been amazing to see that. Yeah, I don't know what that reveals about you, though. The better answer might be something like, I want to watch George Washington go shopping. I have an obsession with presidential trivia, and the ivory-gummed general is far and away my favorite. Great leaders aren't necessarily defined by their moments under pressure. Sometimes tiny decisions are most telling, like knickers or pantaloons. That's awesome. Let me just pause on that for a second and say there, I get your sense of humor. I get the history, interest, kind of nerdiness. I just get personality. There's like a voice there. So how do you do it? Get super specific. One technique is to take something old and make it new. So take something about George Washington and put a modern twist on it. Washington goes shopping. Cool. Do get specific. What inspires you? Don't just say documentaries. They are my favorite source of inspiration. Please do not sound like a robot. If you're going to say documentaries, give an example. Forks Over Knives made me go vegan. Born into Brothels inspired my Gold Award. Okay. Now I'm getting a little bit more about you. I didn't know you were vegan. That wasn't elsewhere in your application. I get something about your values there. Don't please, for your favorite quote, say something you find on one of those success posters. Success. It is not the position you stand, but the direction in which you look. And for that reason, I'm out. Instead, actually, some other bad ones. Life is what you make of it. Or dreams are like flowers. Or always follow your dreams. Or life is like a dream. And dreams are like lives. Or like flowers. Or like dreams. Anything basically with life or dreams or flowers. Okay. Don't use the top 50 adjectives on these 3 to 5 words to describe yourself. Why not? Because they might not tell us much. So if you just say, I'm adventurous, friendly, and compassionate, it's kind of like, cool story, bro. And I'm really, a go-getter. It's like that. You can probably guess what the top 50 adjectives are. I'll give you some tips on that in just a second. Don't use adjectives that repeat info already clear in your app. So if you say that you're motivated, hardworking, and determined, yeah, I know you've got a 3.7. I could have guessed that. So you've got an opportunity here to do something different. Make the most of it. Do make sure your adjectives are all clearly different and interesting. So basically in the examples above, those are like the same thing. Would you rather meet somebody who's passionate, persistent, and extroverted, or an ardent Panglosian visionary? Or maybe the gregarious, horse-whispering philosopher queen? Like that's what's up. Like I read those and I'm like, that inspires me. Like I'm like, get over here. Let's talk. Talk to me about this horse whispering business. Don't worry so much about pissing people off. Now, students sometimes will ask, like, can I do this? Is this okay? And the answer for me is always, well, sometimes it's like, you mean you don't want them to have a personality? You don't want to like be funny and like show that you're different? No, what I mean is, you can take risks, but they've got to be calculated risks. So for example, you can push boundaries. Something that you can't live without, the play it safe answer for what you can't live without is like my family or like oxygen, which is kind of like overly clever, but not clever. You might say, for example, a better answer, what can you not live without? The Tony Stark made arc reactor in my chest. Like, that's amazing. And the reader might not know who Tony Stark is. I'm sorry, they might not get that joke, but if they do get that joke, it's like some next level stuff. Don't check your humor at the door. If you're funny in life, please be funny. Feel free to be funny. I'll say that you don't have to, but feel free to be funny in your application. If you're not funny, this is not the time to start. Okay. Irony. I love irony in an application. I think it's one of the best ways to show both funny, make them laugh, keep them interested, but also your intelligence and sensitivity to nuance. Check out these bad and better examples for Yale 2015. Just okay answers. 2 qualities I most admire in other people are ambition and drive. I'm most proud of my passion. Please, I'm just like shaking my head. I couldn't live without my cell phone. Right. Me too, bro. Who or what inspires you? The sunset. Cool. What do you wish you were better at being or doing? Answering these questions. By the way, meta answers are more common than you think. What do you wish you're better at being or doing? Writing my college essays or applications. Like, they've seen it. Most Yale freshmen live in suites of 4 to 6 students. What would you contribute to the dynamic of your suite? Good times and great conversation. I keep doing that thumbs up thing. And for that reason, I'm out. Do you know this meme, the Mark Cuban meme? If not, I don't know. Google it. Better answers from a student who was accepted to Yale in 2015. The 2 qualities I most admire in other people are Spock's logic and Kirk's passion. Bam! I'm most proud of only cried once during The Notebook. Okay, maybe twice. See the calculated risks here? Who or what inspires you? Shia LaBeouf yelling, just do it. What do you wish you were better at being or doing? Dancing, especially like Drake, Hotline Bling style. The student showed me this list and I was like, amazing. Most Yale freshmen live in suites of 4 to 6 students. What would you contribute to the dynamic of your suite? A magical mystery tour of Beatles keyboard songs. Yes, please. You totally want to meet this guy, right? Make the reader totally want to meet you without talking about like passion and drive and stuff. Offer a variety of things you're interested in. So if you love science, your supplemental essays on science, then you start talking about 20 science related things, then it's like, great, you got that covered. So show maybe you're interested in literature, philosophy, Star Trek, programming, etc. Here's another great set of short answers and why I think they're great. So when you've got those favorite books, authors, films, and artists, I think it's a good idea to list a few of them and then give a few words on why you think it's great. Okay. And it doesn't have to be something complex. It could be spellbinding thought experience sparked my interest in neuroeconomics, but it could just be, I just love mysteries. Now, you could, if you wanted to, just make a big old list of them. That's fine too. Or if you wanted to, if you didn't have a lot of things, you can list one or two and just go deep on why those are your favorites. What newspaper, magazines, websites do you enjoy? People feel really obliged to be like New York Times, Washington Post. You don't have to necessarily list those. Give me a sense of your personality, of things that you're interested in. A word a day, for example. That's something that other students may not put there. What's the most significant challenge society faces? Get specific with this. Most students go too broad. They're like racism. And it's like, yeah, that's bad. But how do you tackle it? It's hard to do that in 50 words. This is an impossible question, by the way. I know that. But look at this. Society's biggest challenge today is overcoming the evolving nature of discrimination. Okay. That's a little more nuanced. Whereas discrimination before posited superiority of particular races, X race is better than other race, it now stresses cultural incompatibility through rhetoric that portrays immigrants as dangerous. #build a wall. The dominant narrative has changed, but the impact hasn't. Discrimination continues to lethally divide our society. Look how specific that is. I see how smart this student is. And there's even a source cited here with a TED Talk. Is the reader going to click it? No, almost certainly not. But, in case the reader does know about this idea, it's like, oh, this student is referencing this and saying it in a smart way. How did you spend your last 2 summers? This can be factual. Okay, I won't spend a lot of time on this because I want to make sure we've got time for Q&A. What were your favorite events? You can list these. Debate nationals. It gives you a chance to show other parts of yourself. I like art. I like music. What historical moment or event do you wish you witnessed? Please don't choose all of World War II or the medieval age. A moment. What a moment or event. Truman's briefing on the Manhattan Project. Eavesdropping on these deliberations on whether or not to drop the bomb would provide me unique insight for wrestling with the question I constantly puzzle over. When the world of ethics and science collide, which takes precedence? I'm interested. I'm interested in the way this person's brain works. So there's an interesting question that's raised. That's another great way to show your intelligence. Which 5 words best describe you? Playful, nocturnal, Pikachu. Collaborative aesthete. Yes, please. I'm interested. Tell me more. A creative take on the where have you lived essay. So this student had lived in the same place her whole life. So rather than just say that, she talks about how in 2009, her family had to move and her 1920s French style home. And even though it was a minor change in location, she worried that she was going to be losing, like she says here, the memories of my grandfather's spirit. But after several years of enjoying our beautiful new home, my sisters and I still remember building our swing in the backyard and spinning tops with our grandfather on our tile floors. So our connection to family. And there's kind of like some nice, I don't know, I get kind of warm and fuzzy when I read that. So you don't have to just be factual here. You can do something a little more, a little creative. 18 ways to up-level your optional college application video. Not going to be covering it right now because we don't have time. That's on the course. So let me switch this over. Ba-dum-bum-bing. And I'm going to open up a Google Doc for a YS essay that a student has sent in, which we will look at here. But before we actually, I'll just paste this into the doc so you can click on this. This is where we're moving to. Let me do this. Hi. I'm going to switch my screen over to the YS essay doc. But if you click the Google Doc that I just popped up in the chat box, you'll jump over to this. And I'm going to give some feedback on this YS essay. While I'm giving feedback on this YS essay, this is the time for Q&A. So if you've got questions, things that you want to say, or things you're wondering about, this is the time for that. Meantime, click on this link, which you'll find. Actually, let me make sure that it's totally shared. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Let's see. I don't know if it actually worked. You might not be able to actually click that. So let me do this real quick. Here, try this link. There we go. That should work better. Sorry, wrong link. That should. Alyssa says, I don't have access, mate. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, cool. Now people are flooding onto the doc. All right, cool. This should be in view only mode. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it's in view only mode. Okay. So here's a YS essay that someone sent in, and let's take a look at it. I haven't seen it before. My brother Devin just popped it onto this doc and sent it to me. So not that I'm not going to do a magic trick, but so we're doing two things at once. We're looking at this, but also if you've got questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. We'll do three things at once. If you're interested in signing up for the course, and I'd love to have you, again, the proceeds all go to support the Matchsliders project, the Matchsliders Scholarship Program. Please feel free to check out the link. In fact, Devin, maybe you can post the link at the top just so that folks can sign up for it. Let me say this, one more thing about the Matchsliders project. If you're a counselor watching this, or if you're a student who identifies as low income and you'd like to participate in the Matchsliders program, which is to say you get 4 hours of free essay help, 2 hours of college list help, please sign up. Sign up at the link. I'm going to actually just paste that really quick. So collegeessayguide.com/matchsliders. See? So here's this. Sign up. I'll just do that. Sign up. I'd love to get 20 more people because I'm at about 80 with 80 students paired with 80 counselors. I'd love to have 20 more counselors and 20 more students paired up because that would put us at 100 for 2017, which would be really exciting. Okay, so let's get into this essay. How did you learn about Vassar and what aspect of our college do you find appealing? Okay, let me take a sip of water. In 11th grade, I did a research project on Maria Mitchell, the first American professional female astronomer and a former foundational Vassar professor. I stumbled upon Vassar College by chance while reading her biography, where I'm not going to worry about grammar stuff so much, where it was discussed how her hands-on approach to learning still is prominent at Vassar today. While I was looking at your website for more information on Mitchell, I don't know if I'd say I'd say while I was looking at the Vassar website for more information on Mitchell, I grew intrigued with the school she taught at over a century ago. I tend to procrastinate. In this instance, it led to college research. Great. I love this. So a little bit of humor. I'm just going to do a little smiley face here. So these don't have to be super straightforward. This can be an opportunity to show a little bit of your personality. At first, I set Vassar aside because at the time I wanted a more science-based education with an engineering program. All right, she better come back around and make that better. However, as I began to do more college research and tours over the summer of senior year, I decided I wanted a liberal arts college and fell in love with Vassar. Okay, why? Tell us more. We're in. So she's answered the question. How did you learn about Vassar? What do you find most appealing comes next. I love the now hashtag. This is pretty common. The word interdisciplinary is a pretty common word. Just FYI. I'm not saying don't use it, that it's bad, but every college loves to talk about their interdisciplinary programs. Let me, by the way, just in case you're just watching my face right now, let me just pop up the screen so you can see what we're talking about if you couldn't get on the Google Doc. There we go. The idea to choose my courses with few course requirements is appealing to me because I feel that then I'll be passionate about all the courses I'm taking and want to thrive in them. Okay, could be about many schools and people. It could be many students and many schools. Okay, so I would say strike this and get specific. This is an example, y'all, of finding a line that could be in someone else's essay. Right? Many schools that have, options like, no, this is not at every school because you don't get to choose all your classes at many schools, but at every school. But this is an example where getting more specific is going to help the author stand out a bit more. I also love the small class size and ability to communicate with professors. Same note. Okay. Anything I think that you've got that could appear in another essay or it could be about another school, consider cutting it. Currently, I attend a school where my graduating class consists of 7 scholars. My largest class has 13 students in it. Okay, well, that's an interesting context, but hopefully, in a second, the author is going to tell us why this is important. I'd love to continue to have a feeling of a tight-knit community, both in my entire school and in my classes. Okay, why? The support of undergrad research, independent study, and hands-on learning excite me. Okay, so why? I would be curious to know a little bit about why. So in the stuff that I'm encouraging the student to cut, give me some more context. Why is that tight-knit community so important for you? Give me the so what? And then give me a so what for your so what. So what? Oh, because it's got small classes. So why is that important? Okay, so why is that important? Right? The support of undergrad research, independent study, and hands-on learning excite me. In high school, I've conducted many research projects, most notably my AP research project, where I performed a content analysis on the gender representations in comic books. Oh, cool. So that's connecting here. I'm interested in research. Might there be a particular research opportunity at Vassar that you're interested in? So specific opportunity. I'd love to hear about it. Outside of academics, now the question asks, what aspect of our college do you find appealing? it's a little bit, these are aspects, right? Now, is this going to be wrong? Not necessarily. I don't think the reader is necessarily, unless they're really hard-nosed, going to be like, well, there's just too many aspects. Like, what's the single thing? I think my sense is, and this is just one man's opinion, that they're trying to encourage students. They don't feel like they have to do everything. If the student, so what I would encourage, particularly for the Vassar essay, is do make sure that you emphasize, just to make sure you answer the prompt, one aspect that you find appealing. So make sure you answer the prompt. If once you've done that, you want to go on and say, oh, there's some bonus stuff, I think that's okay. But I would say, just to kind of be, letter perfect, as it were, make sure you're answering the prompt. In this case, what is the aspect, the interdisciplinary curiosity-driven hands-on liberal arts education? It's a little broad. So what I would say for this is, like, could this be more specific? Whatever your answer to the prompt is. Okay. And then give us some bonus reasons, maybe in a second paragraph, and another paragraph after. Outside of academics, I love the active student participation in many aspects, such as the student association, probably pretty general, and the 100 student club. So pretty general, more specifics. And this is like my favorite note to put on a YS. You might as well give yourself this note, get more specific. The emphasis on gender equality, diversity, and equality for all people, I feel, is significant. True? How is it manifesting itself at Vassar? The belief in gender equality and their firm stance that women are just as intellectually capable of men since before most schools or even people began to recognize is extremely important and appealing to me as well. Okay, how does Vassar manifest this specifically? Okay, and that's what I'll say for that. My finding of Vassar may have been accidental, but my application is not. Nice line. I love this. I would be honored to attend Vassar in the fall of 2018. Ooh, goosebumps. I don't know why I got goosebumps, but I would be honored. It's like really just coming at them. So these are my notes for this. And as you can see, some of this probably applies to some of you on this call. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. And I just want to make sure that folks have the link to sign up for the course. So let me just grab that for you. So it's and you can get this also in your in the pop-up next to the chat box, but I'll paste it at the top just in case folks are interested if you want to sign up for the course. For the Black Friday course, the Black Friday sale. Okay, let me scroll down through some questions. I'm going to try and do a bunch of these about as quickly as I can. This is going to be like the lightning round. So we're at 1 hour, but if you like to stay for 5 more minutes, then I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. All right, here goes. Should I include the certificates for all my achievements? No. Am I taking essays to edit at the end? I took 1. What about a link to an online portfolio? It depends on the school. If the school asks for it, send it. If not, they probably won't click on it. If you want to put it in your additional info section, great, go for it. But they're reading so fast, they probably won't click. But why not include it? Should I list all my athletic awards? Asked Ben. It depends. I mean, how many athletic awards you have? I had a student who had like 36 color guard awards, and I was like, maybe list 10, 15. She's like, I've got to list 20. I was like, okay, list 20. I'm not looking to be recruited. Thinking it might be wise not to. Lists maybe some, Ben, the ones that are important to you. But it depends also what else you've got, that you're trying to, that's competing for space in that additional info section. Let's see. Will they read all the awards you put in the additional awards section? I think so. I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't. What do I think about web portfolio links? I talked about that. Will they be looked at? So if the school asks for a web portfolio, like some schools have, like, put us a link if you want us to look at it. Odds are better that they'll look at that. Chances are I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't look at that. But if it's just something in the additional info section, or I don't suggest this, but if students sometimes put a link in their essay, I don't find, at least from what I've heard, that admissions reps click those very often. For transfer students, should you write high school achievements and activities? It will depend on what the school is asking for in particular. I would say it depends on the school, and you can contact the school to find out particularly what they're looking for. What do you think about including mental health info in the additional info section? Connie, that's a tricky question. So how do I answer that briefly? It depends. What's my lightning answer for this? You want ultimately the reader to sense that you are a victor and not a victim. So sometimes when students include mental health info, that will be a red flag, and it'll go to like different readers, or it'll sort of raise, they want to make sure basically that they've got the resources to support students who have mental health issues or have dealt with them in the past. So I would say definitely consult your counselor on that. That's my lightning fast answer. Any tips for students who are undeclared? So writing about specific academic programs is tough. pick programs anyway. Like you can still pick things that you're passionate about. So even if you're undeclared or you're undecided, you can probably pick 3 things that you're really interested in terms of the school, make those the ABC of the essay and do a paragraph on each one. Then maybe at the end, give us a little montage of like other stuff that you love about the school. Should I put a sport on my UC app if it didn't win any awards or tournaments for it? It depends on what else you've got there, right? So was it important to you? If so, why was it important? Articulate it in the activities list. If you didn't, but I don't make awards and tournaments like the measure of your success in a sport. If it's something that was meaningful to you, especially if you competed over several years, then I'd say go for it. What else? Ba-dum-bum-bum. Should I include links in my activities section? I talked about that. If my grades just suddenly improved dramatically, but there was no real reason for it, how do I address it? Or should I address it? If there's no real reason, it's hard to address that, right? So I don't know. I don't know what I'd say to you. If they suddenly improve dramatically, there's no real reason for it. I would say search your soul, Tyler, and find out like what was going on through that time. If you can find something, then it might be worth a small note in your additional info section. But if not, maybe not. My first language is not English, and it's my second year in the US. My GPA has dropped due to the different educational system. How can I emphasize the struggle I went through? Wow. Okay, well, it depends on the schools you're applying to. But Danya, I'd say mention in your additional info section. Get real bullet point specific and factual about the impact that it had on you. Are you writing about, if you're writing for the UC personal insight questions, that might be worth an entire personal insight question. It's up to you. I don't know how much you have to say about it. But I wouldn't emphasize the struggle that you went through. I would just say, if you're writing about this for an essay or for, let's say, a supplemental essay, let's say it's a UC personal insight question, I'd say keep the struggle to the first third, as much the first half. Really, it should be about what you've done to overcome it and what you've learned through the process. So think of it as a 3-step process. Challenge, step 1. Step 2, what did I do about it? Step 3, what did I learn? 1/3, 1/3, 1/3-ish, okay? You remind me of this show I used to watch when I was a little boy here in the Philippines. The host was named Uncle Bob, and he used to hum all the time. Thanks, John, but that's not a question. For students who are undecided, how do you recommend they address their academics in the YS? So same note, I'd pick the things that you're most interested in the YS, and I would focus on academics first because you're applying to a school. And I think I already answered that. How often do I host these webinars? Kenneth, de vez en cuando, as they say in Spanish. So it's kind of like whenever I'm inspired, or whenever my brother says, hey, we ought to do a webinar, then I do a webinar. But you can get so much of me through the website. There are so many different webinars that I've done, or on YouTube. Or the course, watch one of my courses. Oh, let me add this. My brother said this. He's like, why don't we apply this Black Friday code to like all of the courses that you've done? And I'm like, oh, that seems like a cool idea. So check it out through Black Friday, it sounds like I'm like through Black Friday, like act now. But I think this is a cool thing. So if you want to get more and you're interested in more resources and you want to apply that Black Friday code, you can go to the website and that coupon will work for any of the courses. Top secret tip for those of you who stayed over. All right. And all the money will still go to the Match Lighters program. Okay. In the additional info, should I add the languages I know? Sure. Why not? That's awesome. What is my favorite food? Max 13 words. My favorite food, I know this one. What does this reveal about me? Is this a good answer? I don't know if it's a good answer or not. But the honest answer to this is the spicy shrimp and pork dumplings from Din Tai Fung. Because they are this like flavor explosion. My mouth is watering talking about them. And let me say, I can't do it in 13 words, but that's it. That's what I got. I can't even explain it. Sorry. Should I explain languages in additional info? Should you explain them? I don't know what you mean by explain, but if you want to put other languages you speak, I think that's a great idea. How can I make my YS essay stand out, write it in a more unique way? Neha, so some of the stuff I said will apply, but if you look at the examples in the Why Us guide, you'll see more examples of that. It's hard to answer that in just a few sentences, but in short, do your research, right? And then write about these reasons, connecting you to the school in a way that it doesn't sound like anybody else. That will do it. How would I suggest editing our super essay used for multiple schools with different word limits? Sarah, write the longest one first and then cut it down because it's easier to cut it shorter than to try and expand on it. Thanks, Karen. You're the best. What do you think about including a ZME portfolio? Ted, I think it's a great idea. If you're inspired to do it, make it short. Watch some other ZME videos and watch some do's and don'ts. And like I said, I've got in the course some tips on how to do that and how to shoot a video on your smartphone in a way that it makes it look professional. But I would say, should you include it? You're not asking me for tips on it. What do I think about including a ZME portfolio? I think it's a great idea because some students will care. I'm sorry, some Admissions officers will care. Others may not. Let's see. I'm looking at the questions. Mauricio asks, can I use the additional activities section to explain meaningful things that happen in a club that couldn't fit in the main activity section? Yes, for sure. If you had additional counselors, let's say 36 more, could you take 36 more students for match sliders? Yeah, for sure. I'd love to do that. If I'm thinking of taking a gap year, should I make them aware of this? Ooh, great question. Talk to your counselor. It depends on the particular student and your situation and the school, and I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that generally. So if I'm thinking of taking a gap year, should I make them aware of this? It depends, and I don't know that I want to say much more about that. Okay. Are you interested, Kate asks, in receiving examples of YS essays in cases when students got into schools? Like just awesome examples? If so, Kate, yeah, sure. I'd love that. Send them. Let's see. I think I did it. I think I did a lightning round. I think I got through like 20 questions. So that's the Q&A. I want to make sure that I'm good to you guys so you can go and have dinner or get on with your days, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, another question. Should Asian students put down their race even if their name is not easily identifiable? Ooh, not one that I want to tackle right here at the very end. Is there an should Asian students put down their race? It depends. Sorry, I'm not going to answer that one right now. Zazen asks, can I share my UC essays with you for feedback? No way, because if I made that promise to everybody on this webinar, I would not have a Thanksgiving. Having said that, have an amazing Thanksgiving. Check out more of the free resources on the site and have a blessed evening or morning. Peace.